This video series attempts to provide an esoteric analysis of the Holy Scriptures, offering an antidote to the distortions promoted by literalist and uninitiated readings. Rooted in the principles of Empyrean dragon magic and aligned with the Illuminist mission of advancing humanity toward unity through rational spiritual gnosis, the series invites viewers to embark on a progressive, interpretive journey. Each new video builds upon the last, creating a cumulative hermeneutic architecture that reveals the scriptures as a coded metaphysical narrative for magic and self-realization. And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven, to give light upon the earth. And it was so. Genesis 1, verse 15. This verse marks the moment when the archetypal illumination of the governing intelligences becomes functional. We've discussed how the fourth day of creation represents the fourth stage of the mind's spiritual unfoldment towards self-realization as part of the great work. The creation of light on the first day marks the mind's spiritual inspiration and the revelation of divine intelligence through the evolution of consciousness. The mind becomes awakened to its spiritual nature and the truth. The creation of the heavenly luminaries on the fourth day, sun, moon, and stars, marks the installation and evolutionary development of archetypal intelligences as governing structures within the psychocosmic heaven. The primordial light of Kether illuminates the two pillars of wisdom and understanding, also known as Homa and Binah in Hebrew, and symbolized in the forms of the sun and moon, solar and lunar. The psychic soil of ego consciousness, the earth, has been fertilized with thoughts, ideas, concepts, and recursive thinking in the third stage. With the functionality of the luminary governing intelligences through will and understanding, archetypes become intelligible, intuition begins to guide cognition, and the ego no longer operates in the darkness. The earth, ego field, becomes lit from above by the higher lights of the inner heaven. In essence, the emerging ego becomes illuminated by the higher principles of mind. The sun also represents the true self and ontological wisdom, and the moon represents the intellect and understanding. They are reflections of the true light of reason. Through the communication of the self archetype with the ego becomes illuminated, and symbolic thought emerges, allowing archetypal images as carriers of significance to be brought to consciousness and serve the mind on its journey of self-realization. Another approach is to see the sun as the dominant, phase-stable, high-amplitude frequency, the I-AM monad, and the moon as the reflective, modulating, phase-shifting frequency, the ego, intellect. When these governing intelligences give light upon the earth, what this means is that higher-order frequencies constrain lower-order chaos and illuminate the psyche through will, understanding, wisdom, and intuition. In the previous verse, we were told how these lights serve as signs, seasons, days, and years. These periods of time allow the mind to relate past, present, and future, and establish an ego narrative. Consciousness can now engineer its own experiences and reflect on them. Think of what would happen if creation stopped at the third stage, and the luminary intelligences were not created. The psychic soil of ego consciousness might have been fertile, based on the third stage of creation, but it would be blind. On the third day, dry land had appeared once the psychic waters were gathered into one place. This allowed the formation of the conscious mind, disjoined from the unconscious. Mental fertility was provided in the symbol of grass, seeds, and fruit-bearing trees. This mental fertility is reflected through generative thoughts, ideas, and concepts. This was also the rise of the principle of imagination through archetypal images as a formative activity of the mind. Without the sun, there would not be inner direction. There would not be any central identity. The I am the will. Just like physical nature, these thoughts, ideas, and concepts would die out without the light of the sun, without the inner direction of our solar will and wisdom. While the mind cannot stop thinking, it constantly thinks and calculates. Without the emergence of the sun, moon, and stars, the mind would think, but would not be able to understand. This might explain why we fail to explain higher truths to others. They have not been initiated yet. They might have reached the third stage of the mind's spiritual unfoldment through the emergence of imagination and fertilization of ego consciousness with thoughts, ideas, and concepts. But there is still no higher understanding. Thoughts become reactive, diffuse easily, and are overtaken by emotions. The conscious I had not fully developed. The lack of the sun, moon, and stars as governing intelligences within the psychocosmic heaven of the mind further reflects failure in breaking free from illusions, false beliefs, distorted patterns, destructive habits, superstitions, projections, anxieties, emotional thinking, and an endarkened and irrational interpretation, conception, and perception of reality. There is no clarity, no illumination. That is why you have so many religious people who are stuck in the dark. They have not reached the fourth day of creation yet. In this list, we can also include all mystics who are ungrounded and raptured by experiences, all psychics who are unable to discern truth from fiction, all intuitives who lack critical thinking and reason, and all religious people who rely on faith rather than knowledge. Without the sun, there is no conscious will to guide the mind towards self-realization. The mind operates, contemplates, has faith and imagination of higher spiritual worlds, but lacks the guidance and solar power to move toward them. Without the moon, there is no understanding reflected to the ego. Without both, the mind is incapable of becoming a conscious shaper of reality and a realized being. Religious authorities who preach faith wish to keep people on the second stage of the mind's spiritual realization. They do not want people to become liberated, autonomous, and masters of their own reality. Faith is a tool. It provides trust in the higher order of existence. While the mind has not cultivated enough light of conscious intelligence, it is the appearance of the luminary governing intelligences that enlighten the psyche that the mind can progress towards self-realization. This is the difference between a cultivated garden and a wild jungle. If you are intrigued by this video and want to learn more, please like, subscribe, and follow the entire playlist to learn about other verses. Also, please visit my Patreon page to learn more about Empyrean Dragon magic. Thank you.